So I was recently employed by a brand new adult-only cruise line known as Virgin Voyages. I was set to work as a dancer on their third and newest ship that hasn't even fully been built yet, the Resilient Lady. And well, things didn't exactly go as planned. The launch of the Resilient Lady cruise ship, the maiden voyage, or as Virgin calls it, the mermaiden voyage, would unfortunately end up being delayed for at least a year due to factors like supply chain issues, crew shortages, and money problems. Now from that point, I got to watch things fall apart live at Virgin's rehearsal studios over in Orlando. This is where we were putting the shows together that we were going to do on board the Resilient Lady. I saw everything tumble down, at least until I decided to quit for many reasons. Maybe at some point I'll make another video talking about exactly why I quit and everything that went on throughout that process when things started to fall apart. Anyway, after working for Virgin Voyages for 2 months without actually making it to the ship I was supposed to work on, the Resilient Lady, and inevitably end up becoming kind of like a spy for my own YouTube channel to research and do videos on later, also being a passenger twice on board Virgin Voyages ships over the past year or so, and being a previous crew member for both Carnival and NCL, I do want to do a list and talk about 10 things that I loved and hated about working for Virgin Voyages. So for number one, I can confidently say that Virgin Voyages is arguably the best cruise line to work for right now as far as crew members are concerned. Now, this is on the ship, not on land, because on land was an absolute mess, which I'll talk about later on in the video. But I do have friends that are currently on board the Resilient Lady right now as she is finishing her completion of being built. I have friends on Valiant Lady and on Scarlet Lady. So even though I haven't personally worked on board the ship, I've been on Scarlet Lady as a passenger twice, and I have been talking to my friends and they've been giving me the rundown of the overall experience. For starters, you don't need to be on the ship to know that the Wi-Fi is free, not only for the guests, but also for the crew, and the Wi-Fi isn't halfway bad. When I was working for NCL, for example, just like all the other cruise lines out there, I was paying for the Wi-Fi, and it's crew Wi-Fi. It's lower than the basic that you'll get as a passenger. I paid upwards of $20 for 120 minutes, and that clock starts ticking as soon as you sign in. Any phone call you make, you're paying basically $20 just to call one loved one back home each day, or however you decide to want to do it. Honestly, I've spent upwards of $100 a day trying to make calls to all my friends and family and business associates back home. It was a real pain. The crew don't have your standard uniforms. When they're outside, you see them out and about, from the officers to the captain to the maitre d's. They're all pretty much wearing something you could see somebody wearing in like the year 3002. It's not a traditional uniform. It looks a little futuristic, but it doesn't look like your standard blue or tropical colored shirt that you would see on any other cruise line. The crew members are also allowed to wear tattoos. They're allowed to have piercings. They're allowed to have different color hair. It is definitely a diverse set on board these ships because Virgin allows the crew members to literally be who they are. Actually, it's kind of like a low-key slogan when it comes to the crew member side. They also do have crew privileges further than I have seen on any other cruise ship. When I worked for Carnival and NCL, well, Carnival, I had really no crew privileges. I wasn't allowed to go to the guest areas. However, when I worked for NCL, I was allowed limited guest access, meaning I could go to certain parts of the ship as a crew member to the guest areas. However, I had to dress up, meaning I had to wear a suit and tie. And once I got to these areas, again, there was limits on where I could go, how long I could stay there, how many people were there, and I was also followed by security. There's also not only one, but two crew bars on board for the crew. You'd be lucky as a crew member to have one tiny little space in which you can hang out in every day. What you have to understand about the crew bar on board a cruise ship is that between that and potentially a rec room or maybe the crew gym, there's only so many places that a crew member can go to be social and kind of let loose, unwind for the day after working that anywhere between 12 to 14 hour at times shift. I could go on and talk about how much better Virgin Voyages is as far as work-life balance and overall quality of life for the crew members on board their ships as opposed to another ship or for another cruise line. However, I am going to talk about this on another day because there's so much that I can divulge when it comes to this particular topic. But I do want to add, again, something that's kind of stuck in my head about the dress code policy for Virgin Voyages. The way the recruiter and directors explained to me whenever I got contracted with them, they said that if I want to wear a thong and heels around the guest areas, I'm more than welcome to. However, that's not exactly my style. I just wouldn't do it. Number 2, Virgin Voyages is the same corporate BS. Now, in my life, I've worked for companies like Walmart, I've worked for Papa John's, I've worked for SeaWorld, I've worked for the Harlem Globetrotters, I've worked for Carnival, NCL, a lot of different gigantic corporate companies. And I personally don't like when I hear that BS jargon talking about we're all a family. We've all probably heard it if you work for a corporate company. And to be honest, typically when you hear those words, we are all family, we gotta stick together, usually you're gonna hear some bad news or you're probably about to get taken for a fool. For example, they're about to give you a pay raise that doesn't even compete with inflation. I do believe that some type of relationship with your employee and your job should be established. It has to exist because we're humans. We're not robots. We have emotions and feelings and we go through things in life. However, I do believe also there should be a line established. And when it comes to actually working for these companies, understand that at the end of the day, you typically do not have any real value at that company and they will drop you in a hot second. Number 3, the management really does care about the employees that are working with Virgin Voyages. Now, I am of course talking about the lower management, not the upper management. We all know how that whole thing goes. But at Virgin, the management team does sort of establish kind of like a off the record open door policy. And it's not in the sense of we are a family, but more so we're all a human and we all have things that we are going through. Personally, I appreciated that. I did take advantage of that with one of the managers. I had a situation on Father's Day. This past Father's Day was unfortunately my first Father's Day without my actual dad, and with my son, it was his first time without his grandfather. And yeah, I ended up talking to management and seeing if I can go home for Father's Day. They allowed it. But the thing about all this at the end of the day, when you have your pros, you will always have your cons when it comes to this exact subject. Number 4, there are favorites. So when it comes to Virgin, they do kind of have like a come as you are kind of vibe. This is what they have established. Now, you will see a lot of people that have potentially been through a lot in their lives, and I will talk about this a little bit more down the road in this video. But you have people that are literally an open book and they will divulge their entire life to people, even the management team. And for me, I do believe there should somewhat be a line when it comes to those particular issues. However, when you have people that are talking to the management team and divulging all of the issues that they are facing, and it can naturally form a bond between these people. So you got people that get close, or a group of people that get close with some of the management team, and the next thing you know, they are doing things like sharing early access information and hidden secrets and stuff that's going on behind the scenes that everybody else isn't aware of. They may get some news early. They might get passed when it comes to being late for rehearsals. And they might get some special treatment like being able to bed wrestle at night, which does, of course, complicate things a little bit when it comes to the work and friend relationship. And just like that, you have a problem. This is something that I witnessed when I was working for Virgin Voyages. Just a lot of cliques and people that were either cool with you or they didn't exactly mess with you because you weren't part of the cool kids per se. Number 5, Virgin Voyages is an extremely ambitious company. Now, Virgin calls itself the game changer cruise line, and I have to admit, they without a doubt deliver. They have mermaids, they have a drag show, they have a sex therapist on board. Things that you wouldn't normally see for a regular cruise ship, for a regular cruise line. However, like I said, there are pros and cons to everything. What I mean by this is that even though Virgin is being ambitious and doing things a little bit differently, it does come with its complications, its rumors, its confusion, its problems. Now, this next one is going to ruffle a couple feathers, so I do want to give you a little bit of a trigger warning, but I'm just going to give you a straight up truth that I honestly understand and partially agree with when it comes to Virgin Voyages. Number 6, Virgin Voyages is a woke cruise line. Now, I know some people will agree with this completely. Some people will be offended. I'm just being straightforward with all of you as far as what I've seen and what has arguably been the talk of the town when it comes to Virgin. Some people say it's a gay cruise. Some people say it's an LGBT cruise. Some people say it's a sex cruise, a swingers cruise. And then also you hear it's a woke cruise line. Now, before I go into a little bit more depth, I will say this. Personally, my stance on this whole situation is that I do not believe that any giant company out there is caring about me or what I've been through based off the color of my skin or who I fall in love with or who I sleep with. Point blank period. I cannot follow that message or any type of signaling of any kind. Personally, for me, as somebody that has traveled all over the world, as well as worked in an industry like the entertainment industry, which, let's be fair, is dominated by both female and gay men, I don't care. I don't care what you look like. I don't care who you fall in love with. I don't care who you bed wrestle with. I don't care what your pronouns are, at least from the corporate generalized standpoint. I will respect your pronouns if that's something that you care about. However, this idea that these companies legitimately and genuinely care about these things is, in my opinion, a lie in most cases. The reality is, we all know the world is not fair. I do not believe these corporate companies should get involved in these touchy issues. It just complicates things and divides people even further because they have such an influence. I believe at the end of the day, these companies are not being genuine about what it is that they're trying to preach, especially when it comes to certain times of the year. They simply just want your money, point blank, period, and there is nothing that can change my mind about it. However, there is somewhat of a bright side when it does come to this craziness that's going on with Virgin Voyages at times. Number 7, they are accepting and diverse. I will give it to Virgin. They don't care if you are tall, short, overweight, black, white, it doesn't matter. Whenever you go to Virgin and you go on the ship, especially when it comes to the entertainment department, which is something I primarily paid attention to, they had all walks of life on board, even me as a breakdancer. Most cruise lines don't hire breakdancers. You guys might see somebody every now and then do like a crappy windmill or some horrible breakdance move and then get back into the choreography. But they are trying to hire real b-boys. I'm just using it as an example because this is something that I see, and it just kind of really puts the example out there that they are trying to be diverse. Even if it is for, let's be honest, signaling reasons, I still think it is kind of cool. Cool in the sense that all walks of life are able to have opportunities and wish they hadn't been able to have them before. However, when it comes to this situation though, my friends, they did joke a lot when we were at the rehearsal studio because I was the only really darker black guy that was in the show that we were supposed to be doing, and when they found out I was quitting, they got a little up in arms about it. They used to call me the token of the group, meaning I was the guy that was there simply for diversity reasons, and part of me does wholeheartedly agree to that statement. Number 8, Virgin Voyages is extremely disorganized, at least in certain categories. So when I started working for Virgin Voyages and we began our rehearsal process, things were going extremely smooth as a baby's bottom, or as smooth as a knife going through butter. However, after the cancellation was announced, or even at that point in time, things completely fell apart immediately. The Resilient Lady got pushed back until sometime in 2023, and even when that news came, nobody in the office except for one person was aware, from the choreographers to the director and everybody that was keeping everything afloat, pun intended by the way. Well, it was a sinking ship. So after that announcement, a lot of people didn't know what to do. We kept having these random awkward meetings in which all the dancers and everybody was sitting in the room wondering what's going on, if we were getting sent home, if we were getting fired. Nobody knew what was going on. They brought this random lady in and set the director down next to her, and she announced to everybody in so many words, talking to us like children, that he was getting fired, and all he could do was sit there and smile and just take it. But you could see the pain in his eyes. It was very awkward and disorganized. They also decided to rebuild the show that we were creating just 3 days before the show was supposed to be done, and we had to present it to the higher ups, which thus created a lot more stress for myself and the other performers involved. And then after the announcement, they decided they were still going to send all of us to Italy to join the brand new ship and install the show, even though the show is not going to be operational, the ship rather, until sometime in 2023. And I have been saying that anything can happen at that point in time between now and sometime, because there's no date set. We're looking at May or later in which the ship would be in operation. The show that we're creating right now could have been essentially canceled by the time, let's say, May of 2023 came around. At the end of the day, I personally believe that when it came down to it in these situations, there were just too many chefs in the kitchen and everybody was essentially running around like a chicken with their head cut off. Number 9, Virgin has a large range of occupations. I would say even more than most cruise lines out there, because, for example, they have the traditional role of the cruise director completely done away with, and instead it has been replaced with something known as the happenings cast. They have the hostess, they have the charmer, they have the balancer, all different positions that I have no idea what exactly it means, but they got them. They also are hiring circus performers, acrobats, break dancers, and I think honestly it's kind of cool that they are putting in so much diversity and giving so many people opportunities that, like I said earlier, would not have had it otherwise. However, for number 10, my last point that I want to bring up, I do believe that it is a bad thing when it comes to Virgin that just shows that they are really no different than any other big company out there. Now, before we get to our last point, I do want to thank all of you for almost surviving a full episode of the Shiplife. And I would also appreciate it if you guys hit that like button since you have made it this far. Just kind of as an indication that you're liking the video. Also subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure you share this to everybody so more people can see it. Because if you want, I can make more videos similar to this. For number 10, there is no job security for Virgin Voyages. As somebody that is a YouTuber gallivanting all over the world for a living these days, I often hear people say, go get a real job. But I often wonder now, what exactly defines a real job these days? Do you have a boss, a 401k? Are you miserable? If those are the qualities that define what a real job is, and honestly, I don't want it. But we all have to be honest with ourselves at the end of the day. Over the past 10 years, or maybe even less, things have changed. The definition or what defines a real job is completely confusing these days. But again, I'm happy where I am. But the thing is, when I got the job with Virgin Voyages, I saw a lot of people be happy and they were congratulating me and say, oh wow, well at least you're getting something a little bit more stable now. You don't have to worry so much. However, when push came to shove, we saw not even a week or two into my rehearsal process, my job was cut short immediately. When I thought I was supposed to be getting work for the rest of the year, it turned out that I had another 6 months to now figure out exactly what I was going to do. So my point here is that this pandemic alone has shown us that there is no such thing as job security. And in my opinion, when it comes to me being a full-time YouTuber and traveling and just doing what I do here, this is the most secure thing that I have with my multiple income streams, as opposed to having a job that can fire me in a hot second, or the job could go belly up. There's a lot of things that could happen in this climate that we live in now. There's no such thing as job security. Now, in conclusion, I would say that overall, as a whole, Virgin Voyages is a great company if you look at it from the corporate sense. However, it's just not the company for me. And me being a YouTuber now and doing the things that I'm doing, I just don't see a reason to even work for any company anymore. I've dubbed myself unemployable. However, I do love the brand and I love what it's doing. And I believe that if Virgin Voyages does listen to customer feedback, within the next 5 to 10 years, they could easily be one of the best cruise lines out there. But I do want to hear from all of you in the comment section. Let me know what you think about this particular topic that we talked about, and let me know what you think about Virgin as a whole. I do have plenty of videos on both of my channels for you to browse through if you want to check them out. I have vlogs, I have reviews from the inaugural sailing, and so much more. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I appreciate all of you. I love all of you, and I'll see you very soon. Take it easy.